Hey guys, me and Oliver decided to hit the town and let's see if we are able to pull off a video. Okay, it seems that it's just beginning to rain, so I try to continue as long as possible. Anyways, we're gonna continue with our series on motor learning and its applicability to practicing singing technique. Yeah, let's try to find some cover for the rain. On this video we'll discuss actually what kind of effect the difficulty of the exercises has on learning. So you can think about it kind of like you could practice very easy exercises where you manage to sing pretty well each repetition. In turn, you can make the exercises so difficult that it's very hard to sing the one repetition correctly. And on this topic there is one very interesting actually research, or well, I think it's more like a theoretical article. I will put the information of that paper on the description field of the video. Kind of interesting idea in that paper is that all the exercises, you can think about it the way that they have a kind of optimal difficulty level. If you kind of adjust your exercises in a way that they give an optimal amount of difficulty or challenge for you, then the exercise is supposed to bring about best results when you do it. And in turn, if you start making the exercise more difficult, for example, if we're talking about voice exercises, you could make the voice exercise to go higher above your register break, or use a phonation type that you are not good at producing. Those are a couple of ways you could make it more difficult. So if you start adding difficulty, kind of the effectiveness of the exercise starts to diminish little by little. Same thing if you make the exercise easier. For instance, you could lower the pitch level that you're trying to sing the voice exercise to more comfortable pitch level for you. Then the exercise won't be any more optimally challenging. It will be a little bit too easy for you and won't bring optimal learning in that case either. And the way that this is put in a theoretical frame is that the kind of hypothesis it's expected that too difficult word for me to pronounce it, but it's expected, let's say that way, that too easy exercises won't give your brain any new information or knowledge about the skill, about performing the skill, because your brain already knows all the things that it is able to pick up from the voice exercise. And in turn, if you make the exercise too difficult, the problem is that although your brain gets a lot of information, the information is a little bit too complicated and it's impossible for your brain to kind of handle it. So it cannot like make sense out of it that well. It's hard to connect to existing knowledge in your brain. And keep in mind, when we are talking about knowledge and things that we learn in this context, we don't mean something that you know consciously. It's more like this type of unconscious knowledge that your brain processes without you being knowledgeable about it. knowledgeable about it actually. So this is quite, all these things are automatic processes in your brain and your body. Yeah, so that's what could be one way to explain kind of the effects of difficulty of the exercises on motor learning. And just to discuss a little bit about it, how to apply this in vocal technique. It was already mentioned a couple of things. Ways you can adjust your exercises to be easier or more difficult. But I should mention that the kind of the other concepts related to motor learning that we've been discussing on this channel, all of those are ways of adjusting the difficulty of the exercise. For instance, the variation in your practicing, the more variation you include in your voice exercises, that will make the exercises more difficult. For instance, instead of doing the traditional one semitone higher approach after each repetition, meaning this, you could do something like this. Having bigger larger changes of pitch after each repetition. Or you could change vowel, for instance. The other thing, when we talk about the focus of awareness, what you could do, you could kind of divide your focus a little bit to other things. For instance, you could let's say you could try playing piano, play chords with piano at the same time, or chords with guitar. That kind of is an action that steals your awareness elsewhere, and in that way makes the exercising a little bit more difficult. All of these things are very beneficial actually, and you should definitely try those. Let me see. One idea I think I need to be able to grab from my brain, because I'm going to make one video. We have discussed the variation, the focus, the kind of the context is one topic that I'm going to make a video about. It haven't done it yet, but it's very important generally to, well, let's say that our skills that we have learned are very much dependent on the context, and at this point we're not going to go very deep in it, but how it kind of affects in this case, you could change the place or maybe posture that you are practicing in. That will kind of change also maybe a little bit the context, or at least the environment where you practice, and in that way give your brain a little bit added challenge for learning. So that would be also one thing. An interesting thing about this topic that we're discussing today is also that it goes a little bit against the kind of the traditional way of practicing vocal technique. You see, we tend to have the idea that we should build up our muscle memory, and for that we think that the best way is to make kind of successful repetitions as much as possible. But according to these principles, that might not be actually the best idea, because we would be kind of doing too easy exercises. We would be able to do each repetitions pretty much perfectly, and in that case it wouldn't make learning of the skill. Instead, I think it might be better to kind of aim for the type of exercises where you have both quite successful repetitions, but also repetitions that you're not able to sing perfectly, because those also, the not so perfect repetitions also produce learning. As mentioned, they are going to give your brain information on how to perform the skill. But yeah, it is likely the case that most of us singers, due to the traditional ideas of voice training, we might have the tendency of doing a little bit too easy exercises. Maybe just because we think we're building our muscle memory by doing the correct repetitions as much as possible. But it might not be the best idea, however. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up this video. I will do part 2 if I feel that something was left out. It's starting to rain more, and I'm gonna make some plans how me and Oliver are able to get ourselves on a bus stop and way back home. But try out these concepts, comment how you feel about those, and of course like and subscribe if you find the material worth of subscribing and liking. All the best. Bye.